Welcome back now for the news in detail. The European Parliament's Committee on Foreign Affairs will discuss the worsening situation in Indian-occupied Kashmir today. Azad Jammu and Kashmir's Prime Minister Raja Farooq Haider will brief the body. Farooq Haider will also meet the British parliamentarians in London after the EU's discussion. Talking to media, Haider appreciated the US House Committee on Foreign Affairs resolution to discuss the occupied valley's current situation. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi expressed hope that the EU will play its due role against India's atrocities. Pakistan says India has failed to convince the EU's Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee to drop the Kashmir crisis from its meeting's agenda. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said India is facing defeat on every international forum over the crisis in the occupied valley. In an interview, Qureshi said India tried but failed to keep the Organization of Islamic Cooperation silent on the Kashmir crisis. He said New Delhi has completely failed to convince the world that occupied Kashmir is its internal matter. Qureshi also reiterated his call to the international community to play its role to stop Indian atrocities in the valley. New Delhi's crushing curfew and communications blackout in the occupied valley has now entered the 29th day. Moving on, in Afghanistan, over 100 Taliban fighters have been killed in ongoing clashes in Baghlan province. The Afghan forces say they have cleared the Taliban out of Fuli Khamira after wounding 59 fighters, capturing 27 others. Clashes in Baghlan are being reported with major roads in and around Baghlan remaining blocked. Earlier, the Taliban claimed they killed 25 government troops in Paktia and Ghazni provinces. Spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid says the group attacked an army's convoy in Paktia's Zurmat district, killing 15 soldiers. He says the fighters killed 10 other troops, including a commander in the Karabagh district of Ghazni. Now, Iran says it will scale back its commitments to the 2015 nuclear deal if European members fail to shield its economy from US sanctions. After meeting Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow, Zarif said it's meaningless to abide by the deal without its benefits. Zarif welcomed a Russian proposal for ensuring security in the Persian Gulf, but said regional security can be achieved by cooperation among Gulf countries. He said Iran-Russia cooperation is in the interest of the region and beyond. Meanwhile, Hezbollah and Israel have exchanged fire along the Lebanese border after a week of growing tension. Hezbollah claims it destroyed an Israeli tank, while Israel's military retaliated by firing 100 shells into Lebanon. Iran says Hezbollah's attack on Israel was an act of retaliation. Israel says Washington fully supports its right to self-defense. In the meantime, Bahrain has instructed its citizens to leave Lebanon immediately. Earlier, the Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri asked the US, France and the international community to intervene and stop the conflict. Palestine has demanded global sanctions against Israel over its existing and planned illegal settlements in the West Bank. Senior Palestinian official Saib Erakert says Israel has been involved in systematic human rights violations and war crimes for decades. Saib Erakert used the word to take notice of new Jewish settlements in the occupied territories. Hanan Ashravi says Israel is violating the UN Charter and the Rome Statute on War Crimes and Genocide. Ashravi says Israel is pursuing a racist nation-state law, which was adopted earlier this year by the Knesset. Earlier, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to make all illegal Jewish settlements part of Israel. Meanwhile, the Israeli army arrested 22 Palestinians in overnight raids in the West Bank. The United Nations warns warring parties in Libya that attacks on civilians may constitute war crimes. In a statement, the mission said it will approach the International Criminal Court over the recent attack on Tripoli's Mitiga airport. The mission said it will share details of the attack with the International Criminal Court and the security. It said the attack was designed to sow fear, create chaos and disrupt operations at the only working airport in Tripoli. The UN said the attack cannot be justified under any pretext. Meanwhile, Syria says the ceasefire declared by the army in northwestern Idlib province is temporary. Syria's presidential advisor Bulletin says the ceasefire was set up to stabilize the situation in Idlib. Shaban says Turkish troops currently in Idlib will be forced to leave the country. The Syrian army says it reserves the right to respond to any violation by the Al-Qaeda-linked Nusra Front. Russia's defense ministry has asked rebels to abandon armed resistance and join the peace process. Moscow claims Russian and Syrian warplanes have not carried out any recent raids in the region. Now, Britain's opposition Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn says his party wants an election to stop a no-deal Brexit. In a speech, Corbyn said the Labour Party will give people the final say about Brexit, including the option to remain in the EU. He said a vote of no confidence against Prime Minister Boris Johnson is very much on the table.
The vote of no confidence is very much there on the table. It's not an either-or. Both options are absolutely there. And we will do everything we can in the coming weeks to prevent a no deal. We want a general election so the people of this country can decide their future.
Now, ex-British Prime Minister Tony Blair has warned the Labour Party to ignore the government's general election ploy. Blair says Prime Minister Boris Johnson is laying an election elephant trap the opposition must avoid. Opposition and rebel MPs are planning to legislate against the possibility of a no-deal Brexit. The UK media says Prime Minister Johnson has threatened to expel rebel Tories if they voted with the opposition. But Blair says Johnson was just pretending to be pushed into an election by creating a Brexit drama.
Boris Johnson knows that if no-deal Brexit stands on its own as a proposition, it might well fail. But if he mixes it up with the Brexit question and the Corbyn question together in a general election, he could succeed, despite a majority being against a no-deal Brexit, because some may fear a Corbyn premiership more.
Well, if Johnson goes ahead with the expulsion move, it will eradicate his already slim majority in the House of Commons. Now, US Vice President Michael Pence says Poland is nearly eligible for a visa waiver program. Pence is in Warsaw along with the delegates from over 40 countries to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the start of World War II. During a meeting with Polish President Andrzej Duda, Pence said 10 million Poles live in the US. Pence said Polish people are one of his country's biggest ethnic minorities. He said US President Donald Trump will visit Poland this fall. Pence also signed a joint declaration with Poland on 5G network security.
And I'm pleased to see that Poland is nearing eligibility for the visa waiver program. And I was happy to report to you today that the United States intends to nominate Poland as soon as it meets its requirements.
The United States and 10 Southeast Asian countries have begun maritime military drills as part of a joint exercise. The exercise will extend into the South China Sea, which has been a flashpoint between Beijing and Washington and its allies. 8 warships, 4 aircrafts and more than 1,000 personnel are taking part in the drills. The U.S. Navy's Southeast Asia Security Head, Rear Admiral Joy Tang, says the AUMX exercise builds greater maritime security on the strength of ASEAN. The exercise, the first of its kind, will last for 5 days. It begins at Sata Hip Naval Base in Thailand and ends in Singapore. The drills have come under criticism for pulling in Myanmar's navy despite U.S. sanctions against its top army brass over the Rohingya crisis. Now moving on to Hong Kong, where some 10,000 students have boycotted their classes on the first day of the new school year, joining the ongoing protests. Students braved stormy weather to form human chains around their campuses. The school boycott is part of a broader anti-government campaign initially triggered by a controversial extradition bill. Earlier, masked protesters wreaked havoc at the Hong Kong International Airport and thrashed the railway station. Police say 40 prominent activists have been arrested in the clashes. Meanwhile, 15 people have been killed after a three-story under-construction building collapsed in Mali's capital, Bamako. The government says 26 people were saved from the rubble. The Civil Protection Ministry says an investigation has opened against the building's owners. Hurricane Durian has slammed into the northwestern Bahamas as a catastrophic Category 5 storm. Packing 185 miles per hour wind, Durian has crashed on shore in the Abacos Islands today. The U.S. National Hurricane Center says it is the strongest ever hurricane recorded in the area. Thousands of Grand Bahama residents have been evacuated from its predicted path. Officials say parts of the Abacos are underwater, with the storm's surge hitting as high as 23 feet. The southeastern U.S. states of Florida, Georgia and South Carolina have also ordered mass evacuations.
Strength of this storm cannot be underestimated. We will see tropical force winds within the next 48 hours. The National Hurricane Center reports Durian could nearly stall over the Bahamas for more than 24 hours starting late tonight.
More news to come after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In India, almost 2 million people from the states of Assam have been taken off the National Register of Citizens. This follows a years-long exercise against illegal immigration, which critics say disproportionately targets Muslims. The UN has called for the move a major blow to the global fight against statelessness. More in this report.
Last year, 33 million of Assam's citizens submitted their documents to local officials for the National Register of Citizens. However, nearly 2 million people, mostly Muslims, have been left off the register. Even the families of government employees have not been spared.
Yes, we are having many problems and I feel like crying as well. But what can I do? I don't know what the NRC officials have done till now. The way they are making the list, whether it's true or legal or illegal, we do not know anything.
The
villagers taunt us. Even if we go out, they say despite coming from a renowned family, we do not have our name in the NRC. They talk to us like this. It feels bad when we hear this.
This is just the latest in a long chain of anti-minority developments in India that have taken place in recent years. Cow vigilantism and attacks on Muslims, Christians and Dalits have been on the rise ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power. What remains to be seen is how much deeper India will go down the Hindutva rabbit hole.
Now, Myanmar's army says it will court-martial soldiers for atrocities committed in the country's northern Rakhine state in 2017. Over 700 Rohingya Muslims fled the state after a brutal military operation. A military court visited the northern state and found soldiers had violated orders and committed war crimes. But a previous military investigation in 2017 exonerated the security forces of any wrongdoing. Last year, a UN fact-finding mission said the military campaign was orchestrated with genocidal intent. The report recommended charging Army Chief Mi Aung Hlaing and 5 other generals with the gravest crimes under international law. Now, with a little help from the international community in ending the Amazon inferno, the forest's indigenous people are turning to prayer and ritual. They believe they can stop the destruction and protect their environment for future generations. More in this report.
As fire ravages the world's largest rainforest, the tribes that have always lived in the Amazon are turning to prayer. In the village of Feo in Brazil's west, the indigenous Xananawa tribe are performing a ritual meant to find peace between humans and nature.
This is a ritual for the Amazon. Fight the smoke in our country. We want peace and love. We want fight the smoke in the Amazon.
Faces painted, dozens dance in circles as they pray to put an end to the blaze. Tens of thousands of forest fires have been recorded in the Amazon in this year's dry season. At the same time, Brazil's new far-right president, Jair Bolsonaro, has argued the forest needs to be exploited. The backlash has been particularly strong against the Bolsonaro administration. Government says it does not have the resources to put out the fires. Bolsonaro has made headlines for saying too much of the country's territory is unproductive because indigenous tribes have special rights.
If this continues the way it is, with money causing the destruction of the Amazon, in 50 years' time we will no longer have the forest standing up, and we will not feel secure in what we have, in our culture, in our language, and in our songs. Because without the forest, we won't be able to farm. Without the forest, we won't be able to eat. Without our land, we won't be able to live.
Most of the Amazon is located in Brazil, but significant parts also cover Colombia and Peru, where fires have also been found. While the inferno wreaks havoc in the region, the indigenous people are optimistic that man and nature can live without destroying each other.
The beachy island of Lido in Venice has been a haven for movie stars of the past week. In a world driven by ratings and reviews, this year's gathering will decide the fate of some of the best work done in Hollywood this year. More in this report.
Unlike the Cannes Festival, with its long lines and imperious staff, the 76th Venice Film Festival kicked off with a rather sultry and laid-back atmosphere. The splashy premieres and less stressful press queues made up for the late screening times. Stars from the silver screen and those behind it were inhibited by the serene Italian energy, a break from the mechanical chaos of life.
I wish we would have lived in the 90s for a little longer, because for sure for mental health issues, I think that would have helped a lot, because I don't feel like things are going at a speed that we are prepared for.
Hollywood legend Meryl Streep dazzled the red carpet with the premiere of Laundromat, based on the Panama Papers scandal. Her co-star Gary Oldman spoke of the power of cinema to bring about social change.
Can it bring about change? Well, yeah, if people see it. So I think this new age that we're in with television, this will reach this movie, because of it, will reach a lot of people.
Of the 21 directors in the running for the festival's top prize, the Golden Lion, only 2 are female, something that has drawn criticism. The 26th Venice Film Festival will run till September the 7th.
A circus in Montreal is adding a high-tech spin to its traditional performances. But acrobats, clowns and trained animals are still a big part of the circus spectacle enjoyed by children and adults alike. Find out how in this report.
2 strange white pyramids have sprouted in Quebec this summer to make a 21st century big top. It's Canada's Cirque du Soleil going up a notch, this time tapping into Quebec's rich animation and video game production talent. They are part of the latest act from Guy Lalibert's Venerable Circus. The troupe's latest show blends acrobatics and multimedia flair with vibrant sounds, lasers and 360-degree projections.
The city has become the world's central center of expertise in creation, but also in production. There are a lot of talented and experienced technicians who are based here in Montreal.
The company's latest show, Through the Echoes, tells the story of the universe from its creation all the way to the present day. Bosch Dreams, which first appeared at the Montreal Cirque Festival in July, is attempting to blend technology, theatre and art. It brings to life the best-known work of Dutch painter Hieronymus Bosch using digital animation.
Today we create shows by also seeking expertise in the field of video games, and we start to merge to break down barriers between people who come from the world of entertainment, the world of circus, the world of theater, and the world of video games to create new forms of entertainment.
The circus company is always looking for the brightest young minds to add a new inventive flavour to its shows.
The strength is that the National Circus School puts a lot of emphasis on technique, and so they develop artists still have a high level of acrobatic training and a high level of caliber, and to that they add as much as possible an artistic quality. They will try to give words all that.
In the autumn, the White Pyramids will arrive in Miami, where audiences will watch virtual actors and acrobats with augmented reality glasses.
Now, a U.S. trade organization says the fresh list of tariffs on Chinese imports is the country's worst economic mistake in decades. The Consumer Technology Association represents over 2,000 U.S. tech companies. Association President Gary Shapiro says the taxes will badly hurt U.S. consumers and negatively affect its economy. It says the trade war with China has cost the consumer technology industry over $10 billion. The Consumer Technology Association says the new tariffs will not help reach a meaningful trade agreement. Earlier, the US and China hit each other with new tariffs on thousands of their products. British manufacturing has shrunk at the fastest rate in 7 years amid the deepening Brexit crisis and the global downturn. The IHS Market Purchasing Manager Index fell to 47.4 in August, lower than the forecast. The UK economy contracted 0.2% in the second quarter compared with the previous 3 months. IHS Market Director Rob Dobson says high level of economic and political uncertainty is stifling the performance of manufacturers. Prime Minister Johnson has promised to take the UK out of the EU at the end of next month with or without a deal. And now let's have a look at the weather update. Well, with the weather update, we come to the end of this bulletin. For more news and updates, stay tuned with Indus News.